All right, I wanted to give you another little introduction to making dichotomous keys, because I know it might be kind of unfamiliar for many of you, or maybe all of you. I don't know. So this is just an example of a dichotomous key that I got from school. I think it's University of Wisconsin. Here you can see the URL there, and I can put, after I make this, I'll put this URL up as a web link in our page. And all this is having the students create a dichotomous key to identify pine tree, clam, rock, robin, tin can, deer, oak tree, mouse, dandelion, paramecium, bicycle, ant. Now, don't get me wrong. I know everybody probably could identify all of these things. The reason you have a key is because what if, like I'm having you do, you have to identify different species of conifer. What a dichotomous key is just a series of statements involving yes, no answers or very simple answers that would allow somebody who didn't know what type of conifer they were looking at to identify it. It's really, and it forces you to make some observations and organize your logic. So let's go through this here. All right, so notice the first two statements here, or the first statement right here, organism is living, go to 4. Organism is non-living, go to 2. All right, so question 2, so the first thing they're doing with is the very next question. The living things, they're punting down to 4. And 2, they're sorting out the non-living things, the rock, the bicycle, and the tin can. So the easiest way to deal with the rock versus the bicycle and the tin can is just question 2. Is it metallic or not? If it is metallic, go to 3. If it is not metallic, well, then you have the rock. You've identified the rock. So, or somebody could identify the rock having gone through that. And then the metallic objects, non-living objects, I should say, if it has wheels, it's the bicycle. If it does not have wheels, it's the tin can. You see how that worked? Then they go down here and they deal with the living organisms, right? Because 1A is organism is living. If it's a living organism, you go to 4. Okay, and then 4, they say, well, if it's microscopic, well, the only thing that's microscopic in that list was the paramecium. Okay? If it's not microscopic, if it's macroscopic, just means it's large, well, then go to 5, right? And then at 5, they say, okay, well, we can break these down into animals versus plants, right? If it's a plant, go to 6, right? And then 6. And then 6 just sorts it out into, does it have a woody stem or herbaceous stem? And you can see how it always terminates in eventually these simple sort of yes-no decisions, questions end up allowing you to identify it. Another way to look at these dichotomous keys is diagrammatically, and this is just a graphical decision tree showing the same thing, right? The first question was living versus non-living, right? And then the non-living ones, if it was non-metallic, well, it must be the rock. If it's metallic, then does it have wheels or no wheels, right? Wheels, it has bicycle. No wheels, it has tin can. And then over here, the living, it's either microscopic, which is paramecium, or macroscopic, every other living thing on that list, right? And then it's either an animal or a plant, right? The plants either have a woody stem or herbaceous. If it's herbaceous, the only herbaceous plant in there was the dandelion. And you can see how it's just a series of questions or statements that are yes, no, that would allow anybody to identify these objects. And keep in mind, you're going to be doing it for conifers, and that might be kind of tricky to identify. Some important things to keep in mind: make sure that your statements are things that anybody could see about the conifers, right? I guess one thing you could say here, for instance, on metallic versus non-metallic. Here in question 2, non-metallic and metallic. You could probably find atoms or elements or chemicals that are in the rock that are not in the bicycle or the tin can, or probably vice versa, and it would be technically accurate to cite that. And you can say, has uranium in it, doesn't have uranium in it. I don't think they have uranium in it, but the point is that wouldn't be an observable feature. Keep this to surface or things that anybody could observe. Make this a useful key. That's why they use the word metallic, because most of us don't have a gas chromatograph mass spec in their back pocket to actually identify atoms. So in your conifer key, likewise, keep it to observable features. So things like needle length, needle position, type of cone, the type of if the female cone looks different, if the male cone looks different, if the position of the male cone is different. Technically, you could even use things like where the cones are on the tree. Sometimes that is a distinguishing characteristic of species. That one's kind of hard. I wouldn't point you in that direction. The point is, you want to keep it to features that allow anybody to use this key to identify the spruce or what have you. All right, just to be clear, I'm not requiring you to make this graphical format tree. However, some of you might want to, when you're first starting out, this might be useful to try and make a graphical key for the conifers before you go start writing the sentences. And then when you've got one that works, then make your sentences. And I would be happy for all of this to take a look at your keys and or what you've done or your graphical notes on this, and to help get you started. All right, talk to you later.